In the long run, your natural potential will be hard capped. Okay, so how did I get to this conclusion? So yeah, you're benching, right? First set, you finish the set at 10 reps, and then you're gassed out as hell, rest 4 minutes, and then the next set is 7 reps. You would assume, damn bro, I must have been training really hard. I'm 100% gonna maximize growth. You would be right, but the problem is not that you didn't train at the high enough intensity. The problem is that you shouldn't feel this tired after bench pressing even at failure. If you're at the point that you're this tired from benching, and all you're doing is lifting, it's only gonna get worse. Over the months, your sets become heavier, right? So they become more fatiguing. That means you'll have to take longer and longer rest periods, you'll be able to handle less volume over time, and there will eventually be times you even end up cutting workouts short because you're too exhausted. Of course that is going to affect your long-term gains, and you are still ignoring it. So what's the specific problem? Your work capacity sucks. Work capacity is simply how much productive work you can get done in a certain time and how fast you can do it. So of course gassing out every set would worsen your work capacity. We all overlook it because we're so hyperfixated on size and strength that we forget this fundamental part of fitness that can actually help us get even more size and strength gains in the long run. So you don't have to sit there making worse progress than you actually could be. I managed to boost the fuck out of my work capacity. Now I can do pretty much all of my compounds to absolute failure while not being completely gassed out. Many of the other greats have also done the same to further max out their potential, and I'll show you how to do exactly this. In this video, I will cover 7 key changes you can make to your program, which will boost your work capacity, won't take any extra time, and potentially make your workouts go by faster. Don't be lazy, bro. There's only benefits to you. Let's do this shit. Starting with the basics of improving work capacity in lifting. So what we want are lowered rest times because this will challenge our conditioning more outside of just muscular fatigue. Typical rest times consist of 3 to 5 minutes. That's what's recommended to maximize size and strength, which it does at the cost of work capacity. Higher reps per set, still to failure or close to it. This will challenge our conditioning more as the weight goes down and we are lifting for longer at a time. I think you have probably felt the difference. Usually you feel more muscle burn on higher reps because now you are shifting towards muscular endurance. Still maximizing growth though, as long as you don't shoot above like 30 reps. What also helps is higher volume per session because that forces us to adapt to tolerate more work within a session, though this does have the consequence of fucking with our recovery session to session. So there's another way of doing this. More muscle groups targeted per session. This automatically forces us to have more sets and more exercises in a session, except you won't have as many recovery issues in session since you're training mostly different muscle groups. A good example is a full body workout versus a push workout. You're still going to be getting a lot out of each set, but a full body day has a lot more work in it. So we want to implement these changes with as little of effect on size and strength gains as possible, as well as taking up the least amount of time as possible. If you are completely new to changes like these and are already gassing out, then I'd recommend starting with only isolation exercises and seeing how it goes, and then building up from there. So first up, supersets. You're able to do 2 exercises in the time it takes to do 1. Very helpful for doing shit quickly. What this achieves is cutting down rest times to improve work capacity. Basically, it's just doing 2 exercises back to back with very little rest time in between, 1 minute. The point is so the exercises themselves serve as part of the rest time for each other. If you do bicep curls and then immediately switch to tricep extensions, your biceps are still given a period of rest even while you're doing the tricep extensions, and vice versa. These can also be used to target the same muscles at different angles, but I don't recommend that. So how do we implement this into our training? First, you have to be hitting a few prerequisites, targeting opposite or unrelated muscle groups within a session. So like biceps and triceps because they do the opposite actions, or mid delts and triceps because their actions rarely, if ever, overlap. Lastly, you have to make sure the 2 exercises you want to superset don't pose risks because of how fatiguing they are, like squats and deadlifts. That's about it. Here's a quick diagram that you will also be able to download in the description of this video that shows all the exercises you can superset that meet this criteria. As long as you follow these guidelines, the effects on your muscle growth and strength gains will be very minimal for the effect of boosting work capacity, which is why this is at the top. So here's an example of me using supersets on the sample workout. You can superset these exercises and these exercises. So once I get to pull-ups in the workout, I'll go to a bench near a pull-up bar, get my dumbbells for a seated dumbbell overhead press, and then I'll do a set of pull-ups, rest 1 minute, do a set of dumbbell overhead press, rest, and then repeat until I finish 3 sets for both. That's basically it. So doing pull-ups will be the resting period for my overhead press, and doing overhead press will be my resting period for my pull-ups. So what to expect when doing this? You are definitely going to be more gassed than usual, and this is going to be pretty hard to do if your work capacity currently sucks, so you just have to suck it up. It wasn't going to be easy. In order to stimulate muscle growth, you have to feel the pain of stimulating muscle growth, so now you have to feel the pain of stimulating getting better work capacity. Only other issue is getting accused of being an equipment hog, so make sure you superset exercises that require very minimal pieces of equipment, like dumbbells or easy bars, etc. Next up, You're probably used to doing reps between the 5 to 12 range. 10 to 12 reps is decent for improving work capacity, but the real money is found past like 15 reps taken to failure. You don't have to do 15 plus rep squats. What I propose is doing this for your isolation lifts, where you don't have to worry nearly as much about technique, so use the 15 to 20 rep range for these. For every other exercise, you can do what I call top set back off sets, so your first set, known as your top set, will be heavier in the 5 to 8 rep range or below. Then every set after that will be a higher rep range, like 10 to 15 or 15 to 20. This will ensure you're still getting that heavy work, but also this higher rep work. This has other benefits outside of work capacity. So what to expect when doing this? You're gonna experience a lot more cardio fatigue as well as muscle burn during your sets, so you just gotta keep pushing past that in order to reach failure and get the same amount of growth. This will improve as time goes on as well and make you mentally tougher, so win-win. To understand the next two changes you can make, you should know about what are known as effective reps. Basically, the point of training to failure is that as you get closer to failure, the reps you do are more stimulative to muscle growth. This does have a limit and also results in more fatigue, but generally the last 5 reps are considered the most important reps, the effective reps. So every set you're doing is mainly to reach those last 5 reps. Next up. So, drop sets. This allows you to do one exercise in essentially just one set. This is another form of cutting down rest times. Basically, instead of taking your typical rest times, you just reduce the weight by around 10 to 20 pounds, and then do the exercise over again to failure for the amount of sets you are already gonna do. The goal is to try to achieve around the same amount of reps every single set, but that's not always possible. You may do only half the reps or even double the reps. For example, if I was doing say leg extensions with 200 pounds, after finishing the first set, I would drop to 180 pounds and do it again. Then I would drop to 160 pounds and do it again, instead of just 3 sets with 200 pounds with 3 minutes of rest in between. Will this result in the same muscle growth? Yes, as long as you train close enough to failure. Even if the reps drop off, you're still getting enough effective reps. I would recommend you only do this style of training with isolation lifts or machine lifts as well to minimize injury risk. So what to expect? Just like with high reps, you are going to experience a lot of cardio fatigue and muscle burn to an even crazier degree than higher rep sets. It's like if it was on steroids. Next up, rest pause sets. This allows you to do one exercise in around a third of a time it would normally take. This is yet another form of cutting down rest times. This is very similar to drop sets, except instead of taking no rest time and dropping the weight, you take a 15-second rest break and leave the weight the same. The goal is to try to get as many reps as possible per set. Usually the reps will drop off in some pattern like so. Will this result in the same muscle growth? Very close to it. And just like with drop sets, you will still be getting enough effective reps. I would recommend you only do this style of training with isolation lifts or machine lifts as well to minimize injury risk. So what to expect? A bit more muscle burn and cardio fatigue, though to a lesser degree this time given that your reps drop off so fast. Next up. Training many muscle groups in one day. This isn't something you can really do if your split doesn't allow for it, but it's good to know. So basically with splits like upper lower, full body, or any split that's around 3 to 4 times a week will be beneficial to work capacity, as long as they also hit the muscles at least 2 times a week. This is another reason why I preach so much for beginners to do these splits. You can also just target extra muscles on unrelated days. Like in your push-pull leg split, you can add a tricep exercise to your pull day and a calf exercise to your push day or something. If you want to improve your work capacity, you're gonna have to put that extra effort in. Don't skip exercises, don't cheat rest times, etc. Lastly, doing cardio at the end of your workouts. Yes, I know this sucks to do. Nobody wants to do cardio at the end of your workout, especially if it's for like longer than 20 minutes. If you are one of those committed people, however, what I recommend is starting out with 20 minutes of steady state cardio on some form of machine like the Stairmaster, treadmill, assault bike, row machine, or even just taking a light jog home. Your goal should be to better maintain your pace, travel more distance, and be able to do that in less time. Progress can also be recorded here, like how I hope you are recording your workouts. More on that later. You can also increase the time you do your cardio, up to even an hour, but I know not everybody has time for that. Instead of steady state cardio, you could also do sports or strongman drills, which I recommend looking into. Stuff like farmer's carries, yoke walks, sprints, etc. And that's basically it. These are a lot of things to implement, so if you're interested in this shit, then I would recommend starting with implementing either supersets or high reps into your isolation exercises, as well as the cardio at the end of your workouts. Over time, as this gets easier, look to implement these things into more fatiguing exercises like compounds, and progress the cardio you do as well. You'll feel fresher, pressure, you'll be able to handle more volume, and eventually, you'll be able to do a set of bench presses without gassing out at all. And from there, you can start making some faster progress than before and be one step closer to reaching your potential. If you benefited from hearing this, no problem, man. I'm glad to be helping you out. If you want more from me, like being able to talk to me directly, subscribe to my OnlyFans. I mean, only bars. Link is in the description. If you don't like the sound of that though, that's alright, man. You can always join the free community Discord. If you want further advice, I would recommend looking into my video on how to track your workouts, so you can also track your cardio as well. I got you with this video right here. Subscribe.